Loaktin Esterbik was a dwarf who lived in the kingdom of Lobridium. He wore off-white robes with a gold vest, a usual outfit for a priest of his status. Loaktin was returning from a trip to the capital of Lobridium, Krolis, where he had been speaking at the university there. He was coming back on this very special night to join his fellow priests in celebration and witness the flaring of the star Aranora Lobri. It had a special significance to the dwarves of Lobridium, the dwarven kingdom of the continent of the Westerlands. Lobri meant brightness, and purity was part of their identity. Their ancestors named it Aranora Libri millennia ago, before coming over the sea to the land of Lobridium. However, when they saw the sites of future quarries with their shiny white stone, they had to use the name of their respected star for the city. That night, Loaktin felt a sense of anticipation as he gazed across the glassy water of his home harbor at Baraktas and swayed in time with the waves. He glanced upward to admire the stars. Scanning the night, he located the star of interest. It wasn't difficult to find, as the blue star stood out next to every other star in the sky. Today was a significant day in astronomy because of Aranora. It was said to be the brightest star in the sky, ruler of all others. This star was usually visible, shining a blue-gray. However, this one night marked an event which only happened once every century. Aranora would flare up into a brilliant reddish blue. Astronomers debated why the star would do such a thing, but nonetheless, it had been well documented in dwarvish history and had happened with regularity. It was a great day to witness such an event. The silky black sky was devoid of any clouds. The dark expanse cloaked in the celestial canopy, giving optimal contrast to the multitude of little pinpricks of light shining out from it. These stars gave the darkness a purpose, highlighting their beautiful presence with the heavenly expanse.
Esterbik, have you lived up to your name yet? Found any stars up there?
Loaktin's thoughts on the heavens were interrupted by the pilot of the vessel, an old, stout dwarf with a trim silver beard. He was used to this kind of teasing. His fellow dwarves often made fun of him for the meaning of his name. Loaktin stooped down and grabbed a small pebble from the deck to rub as he thought.
My parents were a little too on the nose with my name, Esterbik, Starfinder. What an odd name. Some translate chaos into the word waters, because water opens its jaws and consumes those who fall into its mouth. We can consume water in small doses and retain our identity. However, if it consumes us, we become part of it. There is a joy and wonder in observing it. But once you're truly inside of it, it's no longer a thing of beauty. It's a thing to fear and flee.
Don't tell me you're lost again. Excuse me, Mr. Lost Wanderer. What are you looking at?
I'll never wander too far as long as I can find the stars. They'll guide me.
Esterbik, you are the most interesting fellow I have ever met.
Loaktin had an uncommon name. He knew that. His parents were extremely religious, and they sought to impart the meaning of his life by his name. He was taught from a very young age to look to the celestial bodies to guide him in life. This upbringing brought him to a career in the priesthood here in Baraktas. The captain turned his attention back toward the harbor. The boat was now slipping into the calmer waters of the port. The boat was still a few minutes from the dock, so Loaktin continued to gaze heavenward. He found another heavenly body, one with no shine, no sparkle, a spot of death. The rest of the shimmering sky seemed to shun the solid circle of silenced color. That was the Serifa Trovg, the opposite of the Lobri. Trovg meant pitch black. Legend had it that he was a fallen star. Instead of shedding light, he stole it from those around him. That theft created the dark spot in the canopy of the universe that could be noticed by the naked eye. Tonight, it appeared as if Serifa moved to steal from Aranora. This wasn't actually uncommon, as it often seemed the two Celestials moved freely along the heavens. Priests of Lobridium referenced the two celestial titans as being the embodiments of order and chaos, the two cosmic forces vying for control over the world. Order looks to light, to create. Chaos looks to destroy and is incapable of creation, only corruption. As Loaktin's mind landed on the ideas of corruption and chaos, they brought troubling thoughts with them. Recently, zealots had been appearing all over Lobridium, proclaiming that freedom came from within chaos. Proponents of this philosophy called themselves followers of the Golden Ascension. This name came from a piece of literature which had been popular in poor communities. This philosophy attempted to throw away centuries of tradition and structure. In its place, the Ascension pushed its followers to embrace their true self, their impulse. Only by giving in and embracing their basest instincts would they ascend to the next level of being. The poor who lacked access to fulfilling their desires looked for ways to justify their actions and latched onto that philosophy. The boat began to lose momentum as the old captain expertly guided the vessel to the long wooden dock. Not even waiting for the craft to be lashed, Loaktin stepped quickly off and strode down the wharf towards the shore. It was dark, but darkness didn't bother the dwarves, whose eyes adjusted easily to low light. Suddenly, a flash of fiery light ahead overwhelmed his dark vision and made him turn his head away. The sound disoriented him and caused him to stumble backwards a few steps. As he looked up, he saw fire. Lots of fire. Loaktin's instinct to help took over, and he sprinted towards the building, which had just erupted into flame.
No! Not the school!
He rounded the corner, and the burning building came into view. The engulfed building was rapidly losing its structural integrity. Looking up, he saw a young dwarf throw himself off the roof of the burning school. Before he could react, the young dwarf's body crashed into the ground. Blood stained the street. Loaktin was in shock.
Where's everyone else?
Somewhere, someone was calling out to summon the Star of Chaos. Loaktin moved to the body of the student, crumpled and broken. His hands trembled with rage and sorrow, but there was nothing to do here. The chanting grew louder, so he took off in the other direction. He hastily flipped up the hood of his dark cloak and tried to keep to the shadows. Loaktin ran along the street and saw splatters of blood and more bodies along his path, the gore creating a horrifying contrast with the polished white stone streets. He looked up and realized the stars were no longer visible. Instead, thick smoke filled the air, creating a hellish scene. The fire, reflecting in the blood on the ground, shimmered grotesquely, and the smoke trapped the firelight in the city, making it menacingly bright and leaving few shadows to hide in. The orange-yellow light shone around Loaktin as he pushed up the street. The smoke was making it hard to breathe, and the visibility was getting poor.
The temple! I've got to make it to the temple!
Up ahead, a tall structure shone through the smoke and flying ash, the gleaming domed roof of the temple. The white stone building loomed, an imposing building sculpture of dwarven culture, a monument to their values. The dwarves, for untold generations, had stood for tradition, truth, family, and order. Those virtues had been drilled into Loaktin as a child. They were what he taught countless others as a priest. As he got closer, he saw the temple had been desecrated. Many words had been painted in blood along the sides, slander against the priests. New laws and obscenities were all smeared crimson along the large white wall stones. Loaktin slowed down and approached the temple carefully. Silently sneaking towards the temple, Loaktin made his way to a window. Peeking in, he witnessed more of the ravages of the chaos which had been unleashed on the city of Broctus. Rubble from the destruction was strewn about on the floor. He saw working tables flipped and lying on shattered glass and pottery. Pieces of the broken altars covered the ground. Turning in place at the window, Loaktin focused all of his senses on his surroundings. There were cries coming from the city, and flames shooting skywards from the school, as well as many other buildings. Compared to the chaos of the city, the damaged temple was oddly still and silent. He pulled himself through the broken window, being mindful of broken glass and trying to stay quiet so as not to disturb the silence he was intruding on. Dust hung in the air, lit up by the firelight coming through all of the shattered windows. It was coming from a back room, the sacristy, where only the priests were allowed. He moved quickly and effectively through the debris to get to the holy room. As he stepped inside, Loaktin was met with a ghastly sight. It was no longer a holy room. It had clearly been debased. The chaos had claimed another victim of holy order and purpose. The dust of destruction hung in this room too. Illumination spilled in from the sanctuary, creating an eerie silver light. Scanning the space, he sought the person who had successfully secured his attention. His eyes landed squarely on a sorrowful sight. Someone was sprawled and bleeding heavily in the sacristy. Loaktin sprinted up to the victim and saw next to him a large, jagged shard of shattered stained glass. The pure white glass was marked impure by the blood that covered it. He recognized the bloodied dwarf as Kimak Lormat, a young painter native to Broctus. On the dwarf's shoulder was a large mark, an evil sigil which had been carved into its flesh. It was a small circle with 3 lines coming out from it in different directions, much like a shiny star. A bloody, shiny star. The mark seemed to be his primary wound and the source of a majority of the bleeding, though there were minor gashes all over his body. Loaktin propped Kimak against the wall, tearing the younger dwarf's bloody shirt as he attempted to bandage the shoulder wound. Kimak's head rolled to look at Loaktin. His eyes were heavily bloodshot, and tears left trails on his dirty cheeks.
I gave all I had. My own happiness was a lamb I gladly sacrificed. And behold, I die as one who has nothing, cold and alone, lying near the freezing stone. The whims of my heart leave me as one who let the world slip from his grasp.
Kimak, what are you saying?
Chaos. The King in Yellow showed me all that I needed to know from a painting. He told me that I needed to look out for myself, feed my own impulse, and embrace the whims of desire. I have found true freedom in my chaos.
Loaktin terrified as Kimak's eyes turned from bloodshot red to a glossy black. Kimak coughed up blood.
I have ascended Loaktin. I have become greater than anything you could ever dream of.
Kimak's body went rigid and his mouth slipped open. It was as black as Sarifa Trovg. Movement began under his skull until the skin ripped. 3 horns sprouted from his head, which twisted into something resembling a crown. Loaktin recoiled, stumbling backwards as the horror came to life before him. Kimak's arms extended and his hands flexed unnaturally, becoming longer, and he began to yell the pagan chant.
Bria Estia Nugra. I have received a gift. Longer arms to grasp all that I require to satisfy my new freedom.
Kimak wiped the blood from his eyes, which was coming from his new thorny crown.
The crown of my achievement.
He felt the horns with his elongated and twisted fingers.
The 3 pillars of achievement. One for my father, the ancestor. Another for myself, the son. And still another for my spirit, which will guide me to the desire of true freedom. Give in.
Loaktin didn't give in. He ran. He left the desecrated temple through the doorway where the solid oak doors should have hung. The form of Kimak followed, becoming ever more gruesome. New bones tore through the skin as the abomination gave chase through the temple. Loaktin was no longer paying attention to him, though. He was preoccupied with escape.
I have become my own god, made in my image.
Loaktin was outside of the temple now, racing down a wide avenue toward the hills at the edge of town. He stole a look back to see Kimak burst through one of the temple's high, already broken stained glass windows. He had acquired wings, big black wings which blocked out a section of the sky above him. The wings blended with and became like the night sky itself.
In life I depicted our reality, but now I have become my own reality.
Kimak, in his most gruesome form, finally spotted the retreating form of Loaktin and soared after him. Loaktin quickly veered down a side street, trying to stay close to the shadows being cast by the buildings.
I used to be a painter. I painted landscapes and beautiful women. Anything with a beauty that could be captured. My paintings were adored by all who saw them. They became renowned, a thing which I could boast about.
Loaktin could feel Kimak closing the distance between them, so he dove into a small store on a corner and tried to catch his breath.
The paintings always lack. Small details missing, shapes distorted, shades discolored, or some blemish within the canvas. These infractions upon my own domain insulted me. The imperfections taunting me as I gazed at my work.
The voice continued as the beast tore apart the square outside of the store, throwing heavy crates and carts around like a child throwing toys.
Then I realized people are drawn to illustrations because they represent the world as is, imperfect. Entropy acts upon the world, and we find beauty within chaos. The chaos is pretty. My paintings were beautiful because of their flaws. I found happiness in imperfect work.
The voice droned on as he gave up searching the square. The hulking beast turned his attention down one of the streets. Loaktin saw his chance and snuck out of the store, heading down one of the other side streets. The rubble betrayed his presence to the self-proclaimed god on the other side of the square. The beast turned his horrible head in the direction of the sound. Loaktin paused for one heartbeat and then took off again in a dead run. Loaktin noticed in a brief moment when Beast looked toward him that blood from the horns had sealed the eyes of the monster shut. Fantasy fantasies of his fateful future flew through Loaktin's mind as he frantically found his way toward the hills.
I gazed into the void, and the void said I was empty, creating flawed art. The void met the emptiness within me, combining, conjoining into something I could no longer ignore. The void enlightened me. I am better with chaos. I will indulge my chaos until I die. Then I will join the chaos.
Loaktin realized his situation was dire, and to survive, something was going to have to change. There was a guard post at the edge of town, near where he was, a place where he might find a comrade, if not safety. He was still sprinting, but he was tiring. He reached the guard post and burst inside. It was empty, save for the scattered furniture and gear.
Weapons! There has to be weapons!
Frantically, he sifted through the mess until he retrieved a bow and a few arrows that he hoped would protect him. The roof was torn from the building, debris falling around him. Loaktin looked up in horror as the roof lifted off of the building. The ghastly but familiar figure threw the roof away with a frightful crash. The figure, Kimak in his new form, landed on the edge of the wall. All of the new limbs that he had grown were a sickening black, which was accented by the shimmering blood that also covered the twisted corpse that he called body. He screeched, not anything intelligent, but rather a cry of a predator about to catch his prey. His wings were spread wide, blocking the sky behind him, creating an eclipse of the stars. Suddenly, the beast lowered his horrible head towards Loaktin. The eyes were still sealed by blood, but the nostrils of the creature were flared as the head moved in closer. Loaktin knocked an arrow to the bowstring and let it fly at the head of the creature. It flew wide, glancing off the face of the beast. It flew to the right, lodging itself in Kimak's wing. The creature's head bucked back, cut and bleeding, his other arm coming to the left's aid. The powerful arm reached across, and talons brutally ripped the arrow from the wing, tearing a large, tattered hole into the leathery flesh. The gaping hole revealed to Loaktin that the fires in the city were dying down, and the smoke had begun to disperse. Beyond the smoke and haze, the low-breeze stars shone through. The wings looked even more like the night sky, with the stars shining through it. It reminded Loaktin Ishterbic that the stars were still there, even though he couldn't always see them.
Ishterbic, Star Finder.
Kimak swiped at Ishterbic with a clawed wing. Ishterbic narrowly avoided it as he dove behind an upended table. He peeked out from behind the table. Blood was gushing from the tear in the beast's wing from the arrow wound that he had inflicted. The beast cried out once more in pain, shakily taking off. The injured wing was hindering his flight as the creature began retreating. Clearly, he valued his life more than catching his prey. Once Kimak's screeching became faint, Ishterbic bolted from the wreckage of the shack, racing back to the temple with a newly found swiftness. He entered again through the familiar entrance where the solid oak doors once stood. All of a sudden, exhaustion overtook him, and he fell to the floor in front of the broken altar. He gazed up past the altar and saw hundreds of stars in the sky, creating a chorus that lit up the heavens.
His body.
He shuddered as he remembered Kimak's monstrously deformed body. The good book says that the body is a temple. Ishterbic looked around the wrecked and desecrated temple. Chaos had ravaged this temple. It ravaged Kimak's temple as well. He had become a worshipper of himself, and it destroyed his temple.
Has goodness given up? Has evil taken control? My life has been devoured by this evil. Everything is gone.
Ishtebik shed many tears and lamented the loss of the city. He didn't know how long he prayed, but when he looked up once more, Aranora was instantly noticeable. As he gazed, teary-eyed, the star lit up red with the flare. Sarifa appeared to back away from the raging star, as if Aranora kindled his anger towards Sarifa's advances. They were two celestial beings fighting again over the fate of the universe. He heard screeching again and ran to the entrance of the temple. The smoke was drifting from the city as the fires died down, leaving ruin in their stead. He saw the forms of many amalgamations. They were destroying everything beautiful and orderly that they could get their hands on.
This is no longer Braktas. We have fallen to the glory of chaos. This ruin shall be forever known as Calibria.
He stumbled back into the temple and wearily headed to the sacristy, where the nightmare had started. He found a quill and some torn paper amongst the wreckage. As most priests were, Ishtebik was trained in the celestial language of the stars. He took up his quill and penned a poem.
Samao, Amau, Mesae, Meino, Meinau, Inomae, Vaini, Isnemau, Urae, Amni, Lanau, Ranae, Rauli, Lemoa, Flaili, Funae, Meini, Inoa, Noili, Anafae, Naemi, Inoa, Honi, Smae, Amni, Inoa, Smae,
Thank you for listening to Forged from Chaos. Join our Discord to hear more about the story. Forged from Chaos was written by Deacon Bock. Narrated by Trevor Tornell. Loaktin was played by Troy Berger. Boat Captain played by Roman Bock. And Kimak played by Zach Boardman. Music by Jordan Olson. Artwork by Seth Mossberg. Directed, produced, and edited by Seth Mossberg. Forged from Chaos is a creation of One-Eyed Productions. Until next time, know that you are loved. God bless.